What does it mean to be a museum director?
My role is to kind of oversee the staff, the collection, and also the programming of the AD&A museum. Those are sort of the nuts and bolts of what it is to be a director, but I think what it means to be a director for me is creating a vision for this institution and how it can be a really integral part of campus life for both students and faculty, as well as I'd say the larger community of Goleta and Santa Barbara.
So how do you see the AD&A Museum reaching out to the campus and the overall student body beyond the art history and art department? And why is that important?
I think that's actually really important to reach out beyond just art and art history. And I think the way I'm hoping to do that is to start to have listening sessions with a number of student groups, whether it be the Black Student Union, whether it be the Latino Student Union. There's probably multiple groups, the American Indian Collective, a number of groups that I'd love to kind of sit down with and listen to, what the museum could be doing for them. Because I really see, first and foremost, that the museum's audience and their kind of initial stakeholders are the student body. And so having more of a dialogue and more of a conversation around programming, exhibitions at the museum, and also how the museum and its collection can be integrated with courses and with curriculum building and with the needs of students, I think is all really part of that same conversation about outreach.
How did you start a career in the museum field? What advice would you give to students who want to get into the museum sector and or the art curation sector?
So I grew up in Southern California, and I went to a lot of museums. That's one of the amazing things about being here in California. And I started my career by interning, and I interned actually at a space that was called LACE, Los Angeles Contemporary Exhibitions. It's, I think, currently on Hollywood Boulevard. And that was really important. I was already studying as an undergrad art history at UCLA, and that was a way to kind of break out of seeing and understanding the art and the art world and artists in an abstract way, and actually meeting people face to face and recognizing that, artists are people you could have a relationship with. These are people you can have conversations with, and that's really what got me so interested in contemporary art. So from LACE, I then worked at MoCA for a time, and then actually went back to graduate school to get my PhD in art history, and then went on to work at the Dallas Museum of Art as an assistant curator of contemporary art, and then most recently was at the Minneapolis Institute of Art as the curator and head of the contemporary art department. In terms of sort of suggestions and also advice, I think, if you are interested in being part of the art world, whether that be historical, contemporary, what have you, it's really about, I would say, taking the initiative. If you put yourself out there and you go to galleries and start conversations and show interest, if you reach out to artists and say, hey, I'm interested in doing a studio visit, or I'd like to learn more about you and your practice, I think you'd be surprised that people will respond in kind, and you'll start, like I had mentioned, these relationships with people that are much more personal and not in the abstract, and might take you places you never thought you would go.
Yeah, that's great advice. I actually went to the MFA Open Studio to see, and it was really cool because I saw these pieces in glass boxes, but then actually seeing the person was a whole different experience. If you could give your 20-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
So I would give myself this advice, and I think I've tried to kind of live in this way, but don't keep yourself and also keep your mind and also keep yourself kind of open to new experiences and maybe taking the path less traveled. I think, you know, especially in the art world, there's a lot of interest in sort of what is kind of hot, what is the new kind of, what is the certain trends, and, you know, focusing on what makes you excited about art, what really gets your both like either whether it's academic or just you know, kind of personal interests going. That's a really important impulse to follow and to kind of nurture, and you know, it's important to have your own perspective and your own point of view. And so I would say maybe to my former self, don't try to follow or try to kind of run after trends, and if you are interested in certain things, continue to explore those. I think in some ways I have done that, and that's how I am here. I was really interested growing up in Southern California in like Japanese anime and Japanese culture, and I actually started to go to Japanese Saturday school as a high school student. I think my parents thought I was crazy, but that became part of a much longer journey, and then studied in Japan, and became a art historian of post-war Japanese art. I think and in some ways that was totally not popular, and so I think at the time, and so I think just knowing what you're interested in and leaving yourself open to new experiences is always important.